My beloved soul, stop for a moment and allow this message to reach you with clarity, because what is being revealed now is not driven by emotion, suspicion, or imagination. This is a precise disclosure, delivered because the cycle you were trapped in has reached its end. The angel speaks now because silence has expired. The money meant to support your stability, your progress, and your future was not delayed by chance or bad timing. It was redirected. It was diverted without your consent. It was being spent on another woman while you remained patient, trusting, and quietly confused about why effort never translated into lasting security. This truth is surfacing now because you are strong enough to hold it without breaking. You sensed this imbalance long before it was explained. There were moments when relief felt close, then disappeared. There were promises that sounded certain but slowly weakened. You invested energy, loyalty, and belief, yet outcomes never fully matched what was given. At times you questioned timing. At times you questioned circumstances. Sometimes you even questioned yourself. Still, the problem was never that you wanted too much. The problem was that responsibility was mishandled by the one entrusted with shared resources. What you felt was not insecurity. It was awareness trying to surface. My beloved soul, money is not just numbers. It is energy connected to purpose, effort, and direction. When that energy is removed from its rightful flow, the person it belongs to experiences fatigue, stagnation, and inner pressure without understanding why. That explains the exhaustion that rest did not resolve. That explains the mental weight that appeared without cause. That explains why progress felt slow even when you were consistent and sincere. This was not personal failure. It was energetic displacement. There was a season when your loyalty compensated for imbalance. Your restraint covered decisions that should have been handled responsibly. Your silence allowed misuse to continue longer than it should have. You believed patience would restore fairness. You believed understanding would correct what felt wrong. You believed time would fix what awareness already recognized. Through all of this, you maintained composure. You avoided unnecessary conflict. You chose peace over confrontation. Those choices were not weakness. They were noted with precision. Exposure does not arrive to harm. It arrives to reset. This moment is not about blame or humiliation. It is about closing a cycle that can no longer continue. Awareness always comes before correction. Correction always comes before restoration. You are receiving this truth now because your inner foundation has strengthened. You can process reality without collapsing. You can accept clarity without reacting impulsively. You can move forward without trying to fix what was never yours to manage. My beloved soul, it is important not to misplace focus. The woman who benefited from what was misdirected is not the root cause. She represents the outcome, not the origin. The imbalance began with a failure of stewardship. When desire overrides responsibility and impulse replaces integrity, distortion forms. Such distortion is allowed temporarily for growth and learning. It is never allowed permanently. Systems greater than emotion intervene when limits are crossed. You may remember nights when your body rested but your mind remained alert. Days when tiredness lingered without explanation. Moments when enthusiasm faded for no clear reason. These were not coincidences. Your intuition recognized loss before your logic could. Identify it. That sensitivity was not imagination. It was perception arriving ahead of proof. Truth often speaks internally long before it becomes visible. My beloved soul, You were not meant to survive on reduced capacity while someone else experienced comfort through what was meant to stabilize your future. That phase has ended. The allowance for misuse has expired. Review has already taken place. What continues from here will follow a different structure. It will be guided by clarity rather than compromise. It will operate through balance rather than assumption. Changes will occur that do not require your involvement. Situations may tighten where excess once existed. Ease may reduce where indulgence was normalized. This is not retaliation. It is correction. Correction unfolds without noise. It does not demand confrontation. It does not seek explanation. It simply restores order. What returns will not come through the same pathways. Restoration does not recreate harm. It builds independence. It establishes authority. What realigns with you will do so cleanly, without emotional cost, without silent depletion, and without negotiation. The structure ahead is different because you are different. My beloved soul, there is no need to revisit old conversations. There is no need to justify your understanding. There is no need to seek confirmation from those who benefited from confusion. Awareness is complete on its own. Closure does not require agreement. Understanding does not require permission. As this truth settles, moments of grief may surface. Not grief for what was lost, but grief for how long imbalance felt normal. Allow that feeling to pass naturally. It is temporary. It transforms into discernment, self-trust, and inner authority. You may notice a shift in posture. Decisions feel firmer. Tolerance lowers without anger. Thoughts become clearer. This is not emotional hardness. It is alignment. Alignment naturally removes what cannot remain and attracts what can finally stay. My beloved soul, fear around resources begins to dissolve because that fear was never rooted in lack. It was rooted in leakage. Leakage has now been identified and sealed. Energy will no longer flow out without return. Effort will no longer disappear into imbalance. This moment marks the end of confusion. It marks the beginning of informed strength. Movement forward will now carry clarity rather than hope alone. What leaves you will circulate back with respect and structure. Nothing meant for you can be permanently taken. Assignments attached to you cannot be reassigned. They can only be delayed. Delay always ends when awareness arrives. My beloved soul, this closes a long phase defined by silent endurance. What follows is built on consciousness, self-respect, and rightful flow. My beloved soul, now that the truth has surfaced and the veil has lifted, a quieter but deeper phase begins within you, one that does not demand reaction but requires integration. Awareness changes the inner climate before it alters outer conditions, and this stage is about allowing what you now know to reorganize your thinking, your expectations, and your sense of self-worth. Nothing needs to be confronted. Nothing needs to be proven. What needs to happen now is alignment. You may notice that your mind revisits past moments with new understanding. Situations that once felt confusing begin to make sense. Conversations replay with clearer meaning. This is not rumination. This is your awareness recalibrating reality based on truth rather than assumption. When understanding arrives late, the mind naturally reorganizes memory so the lesson can fully settle. My beloved soul, the delay you experienced was not designed to punish you. It was designed to protect what comes next. Had resources continued flowing earlier, they would have kept moving through channels that did not respect them. Abundance does not remain where clarity is absent. So what felt like denial was actually containment, holding your portion until your awareness matured enough to guard it. There was strength developing in you during that waiting period, even when it felt exhausting. You were learning restraint. You were learning observation. You were learning how to function without constant reassurance. These qualities now form the foundation that allows restoration to arrive without being drained again. My beloved soul, you may feel a subtle shift in your emotional responses. Situations that once triggered anxiety now feel distant. Conversations that once demanded explanation no longer seem necessary. This is not numbness. This is stabilization. When truth settles, emotional urgency fades because clarity replaces doubt. You may also notice an instinctive desire to reorganize your life. Simplifying expenses. Reordering priorities. Creating clearer boundaries. This is not random motivation. It is your inner authority reasserting itself. When awareness returns, structure naturally follows. My beloved soul, relationships around you may respond differently now. Some people may seem uneasy. Some may grow distant without explanation. Others may show a new level of respect. This happens because clarity alters frequency. Not everyone can remain comfortable around someone who no longer leaks energy unconsciously. Do not misinterpret this as loss. It is filtration. What leaves now was sustained by confusion, not connection. What remains will align with your awareness instead of feeding on your endurance. My beloved soul, abundance is not attracted by need. It is attracted by alignment. Alignment begins when you stop funding what drains you, emotionally, mentally, or financially. This is why this phase matters. It is preparing the environment that allows what returns to stay. You may feel moments of stillness where nothing seems to move outwardly. Do not mistake stillness for stagnation. Stillness is recalibration. It is the pause before redirection. Movement without alignment repeats patterns. Movement after alignment creates change. My beloved soul, there may be moments when temptation arises to revisit old dynamics. To re-explain yourself. To reopen conversations. Resist this urge. Reopening what has already been exposed delays what is trying to move forward. Closure has already occurred internally. Understand this clearly. Closure is not something others give you. It is something awareness grants you. And awareness has already arrived. My beloved soul, watch how your standards evolve. What you tolerate becomes narrower. What you accept becomes clearer. What you desire becomes more intentional. This is not rigidity. This is self-respect settling into place. The universe is preparing to redirect resources toward you in ways that do not require compromise or silence. But before that fully manifests, your identity must stabilize at this higher level. Identity determines access. Access determines flow. My beloved soul, trust the calm that is replacing urgency. Trust the clarity that is replacing confusion. These are signs that internal order has been restored. There may be moments when grief surfaces quietly. Not grief for loss, but grief for time spent misunderstanding yourself. Allow it to pass gently. It will not linger. It transforms into compassion for your past self and strength for your future one. My beloved soul, as alignment deepens, you will notice that effort begins to feel lighter. Decisions require less justification. Opportunities feel more straightforward. This is the result of energy no longer being siphoned unconsciously. The angel reminds you that justice does not always arrive loudly. Sometimes it arrives as freedom. Sometimes it arrives as independence. Sometimes it arrives as no longer needing what once controlled you. My beloved soul, do not rush this phase. Integration cannot be hurried. Awareness must settle fully so what arrives next can remain without distortion. What is coming requires grounded clarity, not emotional urgency. You are no longer operating from confusion. Because of that, nothing meant for you will bypass you again. What aligns with you now does so openly and cleanly. My beloved soul, this phase strengthens wisdom, refines boundaries, and prepares space. Once awareness locks in, reality adjusts to match it. Allow the process to complete. The foundation is being set for what follows. My beloved soul, as this awareness settles deeper, another layer begins to unfold, one that is less about understanding what happened and more about recognizing who you are becoming through it. This phase is subtle, but it is powerful, because identity always shifts before circumstances do. You may not see immediate external change, yet internally something firm is taking shape. Your sense of self is stabilizing in a way that no longer depends on validation, permission, or shared control. You may notice that your inner dialogue has changed. The questions that once repeated themselves begin to fade. You are no longer asking why you were treated a certain way. You are no longer replaying scenarios in search of answers. Instead, there is a quiet knowing that what happened was not a reflection of your value, but a revelation of imbalance. This knowing brings relief, not because it erases the past, but because it releases you from carrying it forward. My beloved soul, there is strength forming in your restraint. You are learning that power does not always announce itself. Sometimes it arrives as calm. Sometimes it shows up as silence. Sometimes it appears as the ability to walk away without needing the other side to understand. This is not detachment born of pain. This is composure born of clarity. You may find that your emotional reactions are shorter now. What once lingered for days passes through you in moments. What once disturbed your peace now registers and moves on. This is not suppression. This is regulation. Your nervous system is adjusting to a new baseline where safety comes from self-trust rather than external consistency. My beloved soul, your perception of money, stability, and security is also evolving. You are beginning to see that true security is not about constant availability or shared access. It is about structure, boundaries, and stewardship. This shift matters, because what you believe about resources determines how they behave in your life. When you stop associating money with sacrifice, it stops demanding sacrifice from you. There may be a growing desire to create something that is fully yours. An urge to build independently. A pull toward autonomy that feels calm rather than rushed. This is not rebellion. This is alignment. When you recognize where your energy was drained, you naturally want to redirect it toward what restores you. My beloved soul, pay attention to how your intuition speaks now. It is quieter, but clearer. Less emotional, more grounded. You no longer need dramatic signs. Subtle discomfort is enough to guide you away. Gentle interest is enough to guide you forward. This refinement is the result of having lived through distortion and coming out aware. You may also notice changes in how you relate to effort. You are less willing to overextend. Less inclined to prove. Less available for dynamics that require you to give more than you receive. This does not make you selfish. It makes you sustainable. Sustainability is the foundation of long-term abundance. My beloved soul, as this inner strength develops, the universe begins responding differently. Opportunities that require you to shrink will quietly fall away. Invitations that demand compromise will lose their appeal. What aligns with your new posture will approach without pressure. This is not coincidence. This is resonance. There may be moments when doubt tries to return, usually during quiet periods. It may whisper that nothing has changed yet. That you are imagining growth. That you should do more. When this happens, remember that roots grow in silence. Just because movement is not visible does not mean it is not happening. My beloved soul, your patience now is different from before. It is no longer passive. It is intentional. You are not waiting because you feel powerless. You are allowing because you trust your discernment. This distinction changes everything. Patience rooted in self-trust attracts different outcomes than patience rooted in fear. You may feel drawn to simplify. Fewer obligations. Clearer commitments. More intentional use of time and energy. This is not withdrawal. This is refinement. When clarity arrives, excess naturally falls away. My beloved soul, there is also healing happening in how you relate to fairness. You are releasing the need for life to be equal in every moment. You are learning to trust timing over symmetry. This does not mean accepting injustice. It means knowing that balance does not always appear immediately, but it always arrives eventually. You may begin to recognize your own authority more clearly. Not authority over others, but authority over your choices, your boundaries, and your direction. This authority feels steady. It does not need to dominate. It simply exists. My beloved soul, the lessons you gained through imbalance are now becoming tools. You can see warning signs earlier. You can read energy faster. You can sense when something is off without needing evidence. This awareness is not meant to make you guarded. It is meant to make you wise. There may be a renewed sense of creativity emerging. Ideas that feel clean. Plans that feel grounded. Visions that do not rely on anyone else's approval. This is the result of reclaimed energy finding new expression. My beloved soul, notice how your relationship with silence has changed. Silence no longer feels empty. It feels spacious. In that space, clarity continues to deepen. You are no longer afraid of pauses, because you trust what fills them. As this phase continues, you may realize that you are no longer defined by what was taken, delayed, or misused. You are defined by what you learned, reclaimed, and protected. This shift is subtle, but it is permanent. My beloved soul, what you are becoming now is not reactive. It is responsive. It does not chase. It chooses. It does not cling. It aligns. This version of you cannot be easily diverted again, because awareness now stands guard. Allow this phase to complete without rushing it. Strength that develops naturally does not collapse under pressure. It holds. It supports. It sustains. This stage is not loud. It does not announce itself. But it is powerful. It is preparing you for what comes next by ensuring that when abundance arrives, it meets stability rather than sacrifice. Stay present. Stay grounded. What is forming now will carry you forward with clarity and confidence. My beloved soul, as you continue moving through this unfolding awareness, something important begins to stabilize inside you, something that does not rely on circumstances to feel secure. This stage is about grounding. It is about allowing what you have learned to become embodied rather than just understood. Knowledge alone does not change a life. Integration does. And integration happens quietly, through consistent inner alignment rather than dramatic external events. You may notice that your reactions to uncertainty have softened. Situations that once triggered fear or urgency now invite observation instead. This does not mean you have become indifferent. It means you are no longer ruled by unpredictability. Your nervous system is learning that safety does not come from control, but from discernment. This shift is subtle, yet it transforms how you move through the world. My beloved soul, you are beginning to trust yourself in a deeper way. Not just your intentions, but your perceptions. You no longer dismiss discomfort as overthinking. You no longer override inner signals for the sake of peace. You are learning that peace built on self-abandonment is not peace at all. Real peace includes honesty, even when honesty requires adjustment. This phase often brings a re-evaluation of effort. You may notice that you are less willing to push yourself into exhaustion to maintain stability. You begin to question systems that require constant output with minimal return. This is not laziness. It is wisdom forming. Sustainable growth does not demand depletion. It thrives on balance. My beloved soul, there is also a recalibration happening in how you define responsibility. You are separating what is yours to carry from what never was. This distinction brings relief. You stop absorbing the consequences of choices you did not make. You stop compensating for imbalance created by others. This release frees up immense energy. You may feel a growing sense of self-containment. Not isolation, but wholeness. You are less dependent on external reassurance. You no longer need constant confirmation to trust your direction. This self-containment creates stability that cannot be easily shaken, because it is not borrowed. It is built. As this inner stability strengthens, your standards continue to evolve. You are no longer impressed by surface-level promises. You look for consistency, follow-through, and integrity. You pay attention to how things feel over time, not just how they appear in the moment. This protects you from repeating old dynamics. My beloved soul, you may find that certain ambitions are shifting. Goals that once felt urgent may now feel misaligned. New desires emerge, not louder, but clearer. These desires are rooted in long-term well-being rather than immediate validation. This is a sign that your priorities are aligning with your values. There can be moments of emptiness during this phase. Spaces where old habits, old expectations, or old roles no longer exist, yet new structures have not fully formed. This in-between space can feel uncomfortable if misunderstood. But it is not a void. It is a reset. It is the clearing that allows something healthier to take shape. My beloved soul, allow yourself to be in this space without rushing to fill it. Do not mistake absence for failure. Many forms of growth require subtraction before addition. What has been removed made room for what can now arrive without distortion. Your relationship with trust is also transforming. You are learning that trust does not mean blind openness. It means informed openness. You can remain kind without being careless. You can remain open without being unprotected. This balance is essential for the next stage of your life. You may notice that conversations change. You speak with more clarity and less explanation. You listen more closely to what is said and what is avoided. You are less reactive to emotional pressure. This does not make you distant. It makes you present. My beloved soul, the way you handle money and resources may also shift. You become more intentional, less impulsive, more aware of where energy flows. This is not fear. It is stewardship. When awareness increases, responsibility becomes natural rather than forced. There may be a growing sense of self-respect that feels quiet but firm. You no longer tolerate subtle dismissals. You no longer negotiate your worth internally. This self-respect is not aggressive. It is steady. And because it is steady, it is powerful. You are also learning to recognize alignment by how little effort it requires. What is meant for you does not demand constant struggle. It may challenge you, but it does not drain you. This understanding reshapes how you choose paths and people. My beloved soul, patience now feels different. It is no longer tied to waiting for others to change. It is rooted in allowing life to respond to your clarity. You are no longer suspended. You are grounded. From this grounded place, timing becomes an ally rather than an enemy. There may still be moments of doubt. This is natural. Growth does not erase uncertainty entirely. But doubt no longer dominates. It passes through without defining your direction. You trust yourself enough to move forward even when everything is not fully visible. As this phase deepens, you may feel a stronger connection to your inner rhythm. You honor rest without guilt. You act without overthinking. You listen without needing to fix. This rhythm brings balance that cannot be forced externally. My beloved soul, you are not returning to who you were before. You are becoming someone more anchored, more aware, and more discerning. This version of you does not need to prove strength. It embodies it quietly. Allow this grounding to complete. Do not rush to demonstrate progress. Stability does not announce itself. It supports what comes next. And what comes next will require this foundation to stand. This phase is preparing you to receive without losing yourself, to grow without repeating depletion, and to move forward with clarity rather than urgency. Stay present. Stay steady. Everything is aligning beneath the surface. My beloved soul, this is where the journey settles into completion, not because everything is finished, but because everything essential has been understood. What began as confusion has transformed into clarity. What once felt like loss has revealed itself as redirection. You are no longer standing inside the question. You are standing inside the knowing. There is a quiet confidence forming now, one that does not need reassurance or external validation. You understand that what moved away from you did so because it could not remain aligned with who you are becoming. You no longer measure your worth by what was withheld or misused. You measure it by what you protected, learned, and reclaimed. My beloved soul, the truth you received was never meant to trap you in the past. It was meant to release you from it. Awareness has done its work. The cycle that drained you has closed. The pattern that confused you has ended. You are no longer available for arrangements that require your silence, sacrifice, or self-erasure. As you move forward, you will notice that life responds differently to you. Opportunities feel cleaner. Decisions feel lighter. Boundaries feel natural rather than forced. This is because you are no longer operating from uncertainty. You are operating from alignment. There is no need to rush what comes next. What is meant for you recognizes your clarity and will meet you where you stand. You no longer chase. You choose. You no longer hope blindly. You trust wisely. My beloved soul, remember this always. What was meant to strengthen you could never truly be taken from you. It may have been delayed. It may have been diverted. But it was never erased. The awareness you gained ensured that what returns will remain. This is not the end marked by loss. This is the ending marked by completion. You close this chapter not with bitterness, but with understanding. Not with fear, but with self-respect. Not with regret, but with grounded confidence. Carry this knowing forward gently. Let it guide your choices without hardening your heart. Let it protect you without isolating you. Let it remind you that you are capable of discernment, stability, and rightful flow. My beloved soul, the story does not continue from pain anymore. It continues from clarity. And that makes all the difference.